So hi everyone, this is Christina from Christina's Garden. Unfortunately, there's a noise in the back. My neighbor is cutting their lawn and I have to do it today because I'm flying to Canada and there's no other time. Otherwise, this orchids is gonna die inside my house. Oh my gosh, it's really noisy. Please be patient. If it's really irritate you with that noise, just leave. Don't even watch this video. Anyway, so today I'm gonna be attaching this Phalaenopsis that I did on Thanksgiving arrangement. Attach the picture of the arrangement I did. I normally do this for the house and then they will last a month inside the house, and then after that I will attach them to the tree and let them grow. After this, of course, there's different way to do this, but this is how I do it. Especially today I'm rushing because I have to run to the airport, but let's get it done. I'm gonna wear gloves because I did my nails and I didn't want to mess it up. I have 3 arrangements here. This is one of the orchids. What I'm gonna do first thing is, of course, cut the plastic pots. Okay, like I said, today I'm kind of in a rush because I'm gonna show you, this is a lot of moss to attach it there, so I'm gonna make a mess doing this, but I'll clean that up. I don't want to miss my flight, but here we go. As you can see, normally the orchids have 2 size pots because when the orchids get too big and it wasn't sold, they repotted to a bigger pots. So you kind of try not to disturb so much of the roots, washing the roots and all that, you know. It's just gonna create even more stress for these guys. So just one section here, just to hold like that, like this. Okay, just like that, just like that one. Another thing I do is cut the old spike. Even though this one is still gonna, there's a chance that it will bloom, from cutting the spike, so that this orchid, instead of putting a bloom here because it's struggling, it's trying to seeds and be pollinated, instead of blooming, it will focus the energy of the plant, the life, to grab more roots in this tree and survive. So, you know, for me, instead of having a bloom, I rather have the orchids, you know, attached here, and once it's stable, then you can, you know, the plant can bloom again for you. So let me just do all the orchids. Let me just remove all the pots and then cut all the thing, and then we can attach it here. Okay, I'll be back. This was the second arrangement here that I did. It's only 3 orchids, 2 little minis, and this is like a medium one. I will attach the look of this arrangement when I did it. So let's get the orchids out. This is the orchids. As you can see, the orchid's still healthy, the roots is still there and everything. And then we'll remove this. I reuse this moss when I do the arrangement again for the second batch. Sometimes you can, if it's too tight, if the plastic pot is too tight, just get a sharp scissor and just cut it. Just watch the roots and just open it like that. Now find a good spot here to remove the moss. Okay, we're gonna try to be gentle as much as possible. this is just good too, like that. And then this is the third one. As you can see, this arrangement still have bloom. Look at that. And the orchid's still alive. You can see I have to disturb this now because they're gonna die inside my house for 3 weeks, so I have to attach them now. But look at those beautiful blooms. Really do feel bad to cut all this beautiful bloom because look at that, how pretty. But now I have to cut them and throw them out. I did this, imagine, I did this a week before Thanksgiving, and then now is December 14. So, you know, since Thanksgiving to December 14, I still have lots of bloom. And look at this plant. Still really nice and healthy. Oh, look at this. How pretty this one is. Would have been nice to just leave it alone and let bloom for a couple more weeks before cutting it, but we have to cut the spike so that the plant is stop giving energy to the bloom, instead focus on the roots, like I said, attaching it to the tree, to the permanent home. Look at this beautiful bloom, so nice. Healthy plant. Look at those roots. So you're gonna need pantyhose, a tape. You can do the green tape, which is like this. Don't use the craft rope or something, because that one dissolves very easy and it won't hold the orchids until it attached to the tree, because it need at least 3 to 6 months until it become independent like this. As you can see, all the roots is, you know, and I use the green rope on this one, so I can remove this, but this one is actually a year old, so it's been a while. But we will use this. So let's start. So first, this is the pantyhose. I'm gonna do like this. This will be really easy if you have another hands or another person that helping you, because trust me, the struggle is real, and you will see that now. I'm gonna pass forward so that you guys are not bored looking at me struggling here putting this thing together. So I'm gonna pass forward and I'm gonna show you, you know, how I put them together after. So here you go. We put one pantyhose, and this green rope here is just to support the orchids, because the orchids is too heavy, especially if it's wet, then it's too heavy, and the pantyhose is not gonna hold it because it's a lot of orchids here. Now if you're doing just one orchid, the pantyhose will help its hold itself, but I recommend to tie this one with the green one or this green rope here. I will attach the picture of the wire, because sometimes there's a squirrel or bird that will land in the flower spike, or the squirrel coming up and down, and this will eventually fall apart. So having a backup string, or sometimes check the orchids if they need a little bit of help to hold themselves. But what I normally do, will put another pantyhose here and tie it again, just to make sure, because like I said, once it's hard to get the orchids attached on the tree, and once they're starting and then all of a sudden, you know, a squirrel up and down in the tree knock it over, the orchids has to start all over again to attach to the tree. So to avoid that, just try to make sure that the orchids is really well placed to the tree. So let's wrap them one more time. I can see that here is still a little loose. So I think I'm putting another one here in the back. Now this is how it looked like. So I put two pantyhose and then one string here, and I did another one just to hold the orchids by the neck. Now this is not really tight that it's gonna hurt the orchids. It's just that this part of the orchids is really heavy, so this one is falling off. And the only way for the top not to fall, because the leaves is quite heavy, is to put a string by the neck. Now use this, or don't use this one. This is the wire that I was talking about. This one I used for this orchid attachment for a year. I think this one is a year ago. As you can see, everything is overgrown now here. This one, if you use this, it will hurt your orchids and it will leave a mark here. So by using this or something soft that is not easy to pull apart by rain, but you can see here right there before it's moving. The secret of successful attaching orchids to the tree is make sure it's really well placed, because once it moves, it's just the orchids is just sometimes have a meltdown and they don't want to grow. I put another one here, so that's how it looked like. This is the first one, and I have more. Let's see. I'm gonna use the Spanish moss so to just decorate it. This one is optional, of course. I tried to put this to all my orchids, but sometimes for some reason there's a squirrel that owns each tree, and that squirrel, if it doesn't like moss, if I put this here and they don't like it, they just literally rip it off and the next day it's gone. So let me show you how I put this. By the way, this moss is grown in my yard, in my greenhouse, so this is not, you know, taken from somewhere. This is from my oak tree, and it was grown originally in my greenhouse. So you just wanna place this thing. Maybe too long. I tried to put this on the front yard, but the squirrel that live on that tree just doesn't like this moss, and every time I put another one it just disappears, and then I'll find it in the ground or something. I'm just trying to tuck it into the pantyhose, and Spanish moss is easy to grow. It can just easily adapt to your there you go. So look at that. So on the beginning, expect that the leaves is gonna be burnt a little bit, because this is not used to be outside. It's grown in the greenhouse, so it's really nice and green. It's gonna turn brown or burn their leaves, but don't worry, it's gonna adapt. And to be honest, some of them don't survive, so don't be surprised when that happens. But this one, as you can see, even now, see, still get sunburn and all that. And this is living in the very shady area. As you can see, this one has a baby, and they're just pushing out a spike. Now this is a different type of attaching the orchids. This is used with wire, and what I noticed with the wire is when the roots try to grow, the wire hurts the roots and the orchids. So I'm trying. Initially my plan was to record different type. I use fishing strings also back in the long time ago, and I didn't like that. But again, you know, the orchids grow over the fishing string, and you know, it become okay, but it takes time for them to do that. So I think using a pantyhose and this wire here is better, because it doesn't make a wound or bruise to the plant. So let's do the rest of the orchids. I have a couple more, but I think, I don't know, I'm thinking to do in between, but it's too small, to be honest. So I have to find another tree, because I think I found another tree. It's the same tree, the same area, but I want to put it here because this area is where our restroom. So I wanted to have something that you can look out at the window, you know, especially when it's blooming. It's really pretty. So I'm just gonna do it really quickly, fast forward, so you know, then I'll show you the finished product, because putting them together by yourself, I highly recommend. If you have someone that can hold the orchids like this while you tie, the orchids will much better. Doing it alone is, you know, it's a pain. But let's do it. I don't know if I mentioned to you, so this is the pantyhose, right? So I cut it in half here. So now it's cut in half, and then here you just want to make a small split like that, because you're gonna tie this up, and I'm gonna show you. And then you do the same thing the other side, just like that. Oops. It looks small, but when you stretch this, and I'll show you how. Now this is how it looked like in the front. The small cut is because of that, so we tied up one in the bottom and one in the top, and this is the cut. Okay, let's put the orchids inside. 5 orchids here. It's a medium, and I think I have 5 mini ones, so let's do it. Oops. Okay. Would be nice. And let me show you when you don't put the green ties. See, it's falling off because the orchids is too heavy for the pantyhose to hold. Let me just put. Please be patient with me. I wish I have, you know, 2 more hands to help me. So if you feel that it's safe, you know, you have to really feel it if it's all nice and tight. Okay, so now we're gonna do the second one. So I showed you earlier, we tied this up already, but I'm coming back now to this area, and I can see that, look, it's like loose. So when I tie it up, I didn't want to tie it really tight that I cannot tuck these orchids inside. So now I'm coming back to the tie, and I'm just gonna pull it out like that. See how loose that is? So we're just gonna make another knot. It's just difficult with these gloves I have, but if I don't have a gloves, it will be easier. There you go. So now it's really nice, you know, and you can just cut the excess there. Okay, now let's do the second one. Now let's go back again to the front. Now we are at the front, second round. So another one is done. This is the third one. This is the small one. This is the cute little orchids. Look how tiny. So we're gonna put this here in the bottom part, maybe like that. So it's nice when this one bloom, it shoot out like that, and then you have this tiny one. So it's nice. Let's see. Look how cute. Now this is the top of the pantyhose, and we can still use this one. Actually, this one is the better one because it's thicker. So this one is smaller, so it's gonna be tighter, and I don't think I need to tie this up with tape. Now if you're gonna do this in the front of your house and you don't want your neighbor to see your tree wearing a pantyhose. Moss is your friend. So grab more moss so that your neighbor not thinking that you're drying your pantyhose in the tree. You know, not everyone knows orchids. So just like that. Now if it's smaller, it's much easy, and you know, if these big ones, it's actually harder to do. Just tuck them in like that. Okay. How cute that is. Actually, the top of the pantyhose is really good to use. So now, because there's an extra here in the bottom, what I'm gonna do is flip it like that. It's a second batch. Now you might be wondering why this one is easy. It's because the top of the orchids is not heavy as the big ones. So there you have it. And then you just put moss in there. I'm gonna have to grab more for this area, but because this is not, it's actually in the back of my house, so I'll leave it like this. But of course you can put more moss here. It's okay if this one cover, as long as you know it's not a big clump, it's fine. You know, you can do a lot of things. You can decorate it with moss or air plant, and here type of bromeliad, and you can just stick them over here, or air plant is a really another thing that is really nice to decorate your arrangement. Now when you do it in the front, do more moss to cover this pantyhose if it bothers you, or you want it to look nice and all that. Now the secret of all this is to make sure that the orchids is well placed and tight. It doesn't wobble, it doesn't move, because that's what the plant needs. Now you have to look after this plant for at least 3 months. Don't just attach this here and leave it alone and don't do anything with it. Sometimes here in South Florida, there's 3 weeks that there's no rain. So this plant, because they're not attached on the tree, or even though they're attached on the tree, sometimes they need a little bit of TLC. So just come out, water it. It dries very well because it's outside, as long as you know, even during the night, they get dry very easily. So watering them is not a problem, as long as your hose is not, you know, the strong one, like whoosh, and it's exploding the plant. Then you're gonna have a crown problem. Just nice soft, you know, water. To be honest, let me show you. I grab my hose and let's water it. Okay, so there's one that like this. You see how strong that is? So you know, it's gonna go inside the crown of the plant, and I don't think the rain is that strong that literally, oh, there's a mosquito, you know, going inside the crown. So nice and soft will be nice. It will be appreciated by the orchids. So just like this. So if you're not used to it, just do it first and see. You see, it's really strong. Even you spray this in your skin, it's gonna hurt. So you know, nice and soft. Don't put it directly to your orchids and then turn it on. Just the orchid, you see if the water is strong, you know, it's nice and soft, then maybe, you know, you can adjust it even more. Don't do it, and then just like that. Let's do the top. Now, if it rains, then you don't have to worry about it. And then you can put an orchid's fertilizer inside this thing, or you can hang it. So I'm back. I grabbed one of my fertilizer in the front of the house. Anyway, this is the fertilizer. This is just the goodie bag that you can get at Walmart or any, you know, Hobby Lobby or anything. You can get it this online. This is the fertilizer inside. I forgot what was the fertilizer in it, but it's an orchids fertilizer. I get it from OFE. They will recommend so many fertilizer for you depending what you need. So this, I will just do like this and then tucking it inside that, just like that. And every time you, now if it's big like this, maybe you put one here and you put over there. It's a slow release fertilizer, so it's not gonna burn your orchid's roots, because every time the fertilizer get wet, it will release a fertilizer for your food for your orchids. So after that, it's just remembering when did you tuck that in, because it only works 1 to 6 months. So normally I replace them in 5 months and then put a new one, because it's depending, you know, how rainy it is or what season it is. So that means they get water more, and then the fertilizer gets spent more than usual. So that's it. That's all I can share with you today. Thank you very much. Again, I apologize for rushing everything. You know, I gotta get these orchids in this tree. Hopefully when I come back from my trip, this orchids is doing well and none of them died. But you know, usually sometimes, well, who knows. But be ready if 1 or 2 of them died. And what you can do when that happens is just tuck another orchids, so that you're not having these massive orchids here and one died and then you have one missing here. You can just easily get another orchids and take more moss so it becomes smaller and just put them back in there and it should be fine. So that's it. That's it for today. So thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you don't mind sharing it, I'll be really appreciated. Thank you so much, and I will see you soon.